Well, here we are for yet another video. Numerous events have occurred. We've seen, recently the Juneteenth riots, and we see black self-defense groups unite in Natchez, Mississippi. Mississippi, that's the proper way to pronounce it, Mississippi. A lot of these Black Panther sorts of groups, Black Power, and stating all these sorts of things. Eh, it is what it is. But it made me realize is that the true enemy is not something to say, oh, well, the Hispanos are the enemy, or, the various racial groups. They're not the enemy. I've tried to step away from full on racial attitudes because I think it's pointless in a way. What needs to happen, of course, is the attacks on people like the Matthew Iglesias. The Matthew Iglesias who's promoting the ideas of like 1 billion Americans. Or the libs who support Ukraine who are like, yeah, bro, we need to kill those Russians, and all the anger and the hatred that they spew, the nastiness that they spew, is immense. And I got this from a tweet basically talking about it, but I think, let me see if I can find it. But let me see if I can just read it off because it sounds a little bit better. Yeah. Yeah, politics is decided by a political faction, not by sheer in group. A white lib who works at a huge NGO is an enemy in a way that a Mexican day laborer is not, even though I don't want the latter in the country at all. It's very true. Is that the white lib who works at an NGO, or the Vosh, or the whomever else, the folks who promote these ideas, even the Bowl of the Fifth Columns, are the real true enemy because they will promote these ideas. They will spend time and money on these movements. But when it comes to the results, they're far removed from it. You see people like Vosh, of course, hate going outside. And of course, he really hates his audience. And of course, to a point, Bowl of the Fifth Column does too. At this point, Bowl of the Fifth Column basically is just, you know, basically just State Department propaganda, with occasionally dropping some sort of lefty idea like, oh, capitalism bad, bro. He occasionally does it, but of course he spends most of his time discussing, just how the economy is actually doing well, that the inflation across the world is global. It's not just the United States. These are the true enemies. Now, of course, these folks will blend in. They will find a way to cower themselves away. And they will become like a tick. And they will suck off the rest of the blood flow of a society. These are folks who, of course, will promote all sorts of ideas, and think that they are helping people or whatever. Some people actually believe they're bullshit. I don't think a lot of them really do. Um, the lib who thinks that somehow if we get rid of Trump or something like that, that is bad. But these people will flip like a pancake. We see, of course, Sally Fields. What the hell did Sally Fields say anyway? Let me see here. This is another example of somebody who I think is just a pitiful, pitiful example of a human being. But yeah, basically, what did Sally Fields say? She said something like, said basically that, I don't agree with, it's like I like Samantha Bee, but I don't like the fact that she called Ivanka a cunt. And because it's fake lib women sort of nonsense. And you'll realize that with Sally Fields as well, is that she, of course, will diss and destroy men like Burt Reynolds. This now I'm getting sort of incel-y, but just bear with me. And she basically just, when the relationship broke apart, she's like, well, I'm sorry that, he feels the way that he did, that I was the one that got away or whatever, but screw him, basically, and wrote how bad he was, this and that. And it goes to show that these folks don't care. And she, of course, wrote a book not too long after his death to popularize on it. It's nothing new, and it's not something original, but it's something that probably, I'm sure, helped to sell books. You realize that this is just what happens. And these are, and the winds shift and they move. And when you realize that, and you realize that, things shift and move away, in certain ways, and basically if you ride the wave and then you stick with it, these are the folks that will always be, that will shift and choose the right way to do things. We saw, of course, with Vosh promoting all the ACAB, all the sort of, the idea of, defund the police. When it didn't start to work, when it failed, he was just like, oh, well, defund the police was just a bad moniker, bro. It's just a bad name. All that ACAB stuff went out the window once the prelude to the January 6th committee, which, of course, I think that now we're on part 4 or 5 of that. Who the fuck is watching that? I got bored after the second one. I'm like, you're continuing on with this? I just don't think people are watching. It's just cope. But anyway, beyond that, the prelude to that, when the Capitol Hill police were recorded, were interviewed and whatnot, and of course that guy, you've heard it, but all the evil things that were said, this and that, you realize that these folks have no scruples. These folks have no real beliefs. These are folks who will just say what they need to, ride the wave. And these are the true enemies, the people that will shift on a dime, if you will. And they'll keep their distance, from you, if you are seen as toxic. And they'll come back to your aid when, it's more, when it's okay to do that. Fair weather friend sort of thing. But honestly, I'm just ranting and raving at this point. These are the true enemies. The people who are the true believers and the ones that promote this system continuing the way that it is. Anyway, that's all I got to say. I don't advocate for you to do anything. I'm just saying this as more of a realize who the true enemies are. Don't focus on just my brown people are bad, my whomever else is bad. You can go ahead and promote that, but it's like there are deeper layers in there. I think that's all I have. So see you later. Goodbye.